fucking haunted as shit on this island. It can only get worse before it gets better.
Island is so fine. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Sure, David Lynch. Sure.
Plus, we're gonna have a fun time today. I've promised you a fun time.
Find out how some characters died, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll find out. Hunted becomes hunted becomes hunted. It's fine.
You did ask me what that meant.
I did. Let's find out.
I didn't tell you.
Oh, those are good dice rolls. No 2s or 1s. Let's keep that up, please, and thank you.
I was gonna say don't burn all of them.
It was the
before
warm
we even
up.
Start.
I have to warm them up so they wake up. We are caffeinated. We are ready.
And so, hello everyone. It is Sunday morning. If you are catching this live, it could be any other time if you are catching this on VOD. But welcome to this special Sunday session of Redacted. We will now actually be having 3 different special Redacted sessions. 2 because of Tech Gremlins, 1 because I am bringing back a player who had to step away from the game, but is going to get their own special session, and they are on UK time, so we are going to be meeting on a Sunday morning/afternoon.
Just a reminder, our characters are all orphans. We have no father. We have no mother.
I think Raph would beg to differ, because in fact they specifically asked me, could we please run this session on Mother's Day so that you can be reminded that Sophie is the mom of the group.
Oh, I'm actually emancipated, that. So
shame. So welcome. We are live from the apocalypse. We are a not-for-profit TTRPG studio that raises money for aid organizations and good causes. Currently, we are raising money for medical aid for Palestinians. I do not need to tell you why that is important. We will be continuing to raise money until it is no longer important and a necessity. And so we ask that rather than subscribing, giving us bits, engaging with cryptocurrency in any facet of your life, that instead you put that 5, 10, whatever, how many dollars, there's no expectation, that you would have given us that way directly to medical aid for Palestinians. You can either do that through clicking the donate button, which is where the subscribe button would usually be, or if you happen to be on a mobile device, you can type !donate and get the link right there to be able to do so. You are welcome to subscribe. We strongly encourage you not to, but if you have, for instance, one of those free Amazon Prime subs that you want to throw our way, you may do so. Just know that any subscriptions will yield a consequence that you might have seen during the intro, namely that beloved Dimension 20 Dungeon Master, Brennan Lee Mulligan, will kill 1 dog for every month you have been subscribed. So consider your options, see what you can live with, and make your choices. This is a bit of an unusual session. If you have ever caught Redacted before, at least before the last couple of months, you would know that usually there are many more players on the screens, but today we are continuing some special duet sessions that we've been having to really let our haunted houses or haunted duplexes, depending on which character we're referencing, have a chance to do a little self-exploration, go on a journey. And with that brings me to my lovely player for today. Stephanie, would you please introduce yourself and then introduce your haunted houses full of characters?
Oh, you rarely use my full name. Cute. Hi, I'm Steph, she, her, and today I will be playing Mrs. Ivy Finley, the hero playbook, Harlow Keats, of the Sage playbook, also original flavor, Kai Caldwell, he's the Martyr playbook, and our classic favorite wet rat, Rebecca Dalton, slightly less wet since she went from the villain playbook to the Sage playbook. Hopefully this growth sticks.
We will certainly see how that unfolds. And with that, I am JD. I am your storyteller. I will be playing everyone else, and in the case of this game, as in many others, I tend to take the Monster Hearts approach, which is NPCs are like cars that you can steal, and it's really up to my players to decide which ones they're going to go for and what that's going to mean, and for me to keep an eye on what that means for the ones they're not talking to, which is so fine. So I don't know who I will play tonight, but we'll find out. Last but not least, before we jump in, Redacted is a psychological horror game, and as such, deals with a number of pieces of content that may not be your cup of tea. And so those do include cults, burning and being burned, ritualistic scarification, self harm, and suicide have come up several times. Gun violence has come up several times as well. There may also be ritualistic murders, body horror and gore, medical abuse and neglect, fires, drowning, all sorts of things like that. And so keep those in mind as we're moving forward. If any of those would cross lines for you, as we also have some pieces of content involving manipulation and gaslighting, that type of thing, do what you need to do to take care of yourself and step away. We at LFTA have plenty of other shows that do not involve content like this. So you have many other options. But if you'd like to stay along for the ride, please do. I think it'll be a fun time. And so with that, I it has been a few remarkably long days since you arrived on Slatethorn. You have met people, you have lost people, you have gained people. It has been an ever evolving time. And not one that you would have expected, maybe. I mean, you did have one of the more unique experiences in receiving your postcard. The other simply had postcards found in places that they shouldn't have been. You took your postcard out of a dream. And so maybe, just maybe, some of these experiences, these unusual moments going back in time, going forward, question mark in time, going to alternate versions of the town, maybe they're not quite as surprising as they might have been to someone who hadn't encountered some of the things you've encountered. You and the others had just been coming up with a pretty solid plan, realizing that you were now on a version of the island where the hotel had not burned down. Some of you were heading in that direction to get Mara's documents, all of their files on what has happened at Slatethorn over these many, many decades. Others of you were heading to the Historical Society to have a chance to see what other documents and relics you could find there. And that's why it's so jarring for you to feel like in one moment you blinked. And rather than starting to walk off to move through Slatethorn in pursuit of these goals, you blink and suddenly you come back to yourself as you're running through the woods. Your heart is pounding in your ears, your breath is coming in shallow gasps. You can't see anything around you that would indicate danger, but there is this prickling on the back of your neck as though you are being watched. And more than watched, you feel like you're being hunted. I'd like you to roll with fight or flight.
I was about to say that was what I was gonna ask. Fuck, what is that? That is physical?
Yep, that's physical.
Ivy's better at that. This is fine. character sheets. Where's Kai's? Hello, baby. Yeah, that's a 0 in physicality. That's okay. That's an 8.
Okay. All right. An 8 is not bad. An 8 is a partial success. And so you are running and you are able to continue moving. I am imagining, you are choosing flight out of these options, especially given that you can't see anyone that you could fight. And so on an 8, you are making it closer and closer to safety, and you can start to see what safety might be, because you can see that there is an expanse of water in front of you. And there's a boat. A small, canoe-like boat, but a boat nonetheless. So it is certainly an option. But as you do so, you hear the sound of a gunshot. And a bullet strikes your shoulder.
That's great.
Take a point of psychic damage.
Of course. Because I was like, we don't take harm. All the harm is psychological in this game. Okay. Yeah, let me mark that. Psychic damage. Okay. We're still on the low end in this round. That's fine. Yeah. So first of all, the water the canoe is on. I know there's like at least 2 lakes or whatever on this island. Is this ocean or is this like lake? Because I'm in the woods.
I think that is a little hard to gauge in this moment. You don't see land on the other side.
I've also
I
been
will say
shot,
that.
so the adrenaline
Yes.
is cool. Kai goes stumbling, doesn't scream because he's been hit in the back of the shoulder, and just kind of scrambles up, not fully upright off the ground because he's flashing back to that terrible brunch, and is just kind of launching himself towards the canoe and hoping the momentum of his jump, slowed as he might be from getting shot, could help propel the canoe off the shore, provided it's not tied down, and into the lake and away from whoever has the fucking gun. I will roll.
So that's an interesting course of action. And so I'm
That's the only exit he
curious.
sees.
So I'm going to give you a choice.
Cool.
You can roll fight or flight again to cross that distance and leap into the boat.
Oh, it's a distance. Okay.
You could also roll with shadow with the goal of basically wishing that course of action into existence.
Yeah, fuck it. Let's go shadow. That's good. That's a 10.
Okay. Tell me what it looks like as Kai pretty miraculously crosses this distance, and that canoe, which was tied down, is no longer tied down.
I think Kai's initial thought had been get to the canoe, get out of this area of woods, wherever the fuck we are. And then realizes, fuck, it's farther than I thought, and just kind of almost like without really thinking, because pure like flight, injured, get the fuck out before another shot goes off, just kind of reaches forward, and it's almost like in a dream when he is changing the dream from something he doesn't want it to be, and just kind of almost pulls the scene before him closer, in as he like in the dream he like pulls an exit closer, as and kind of, it's like you've seen Vertigo, like when you do those when the Vertigo shot where it zooms in as the camera pulls back, it's like that on the canoe, and just kind of you launches himself in and just kind of looks back as the canoe is already like sliding into the water. The rope is like fallen off. He didn't even touch it, but he didn't need to. He's getting the fuck out.
And I think even more than that, and there's almost not an awareness of this for you, Kai. You hear kind of distantly another gunshot, and you don't see this, but we, the audience, do. It would have been dead center to the back of your head, but it's almost like a wall comes up, like it hits something that can't be seen. And it's interesting because there's a moment as it does where there is a crack that appears midair, almost like the world itself is made of glass. And then that very quickly fades, almost like it was covered up, painted over, something like that. And we just see you making your way to the boat, jumping in, leaving the shore, and leaving the person who was hunting you behind.
I'm going to assume I don't get a look because I'm staying low so I don't get shot at again.
You don't get a look, Kai, but in that moment, as you're catching your breath, as you're getting enough distance to where you're starting to figure out where to go next and what to do, you blink and then you're somewhere else. You're not you anymore.
Oh.
Rebecca, you find yourself in one of those hunter's blinds holding a rifle in your hands.
Hmm?
You can smell that ozone smell of a gun having been fired. And you realize your finger is there on the trigger. What do you do?
I have no memory how I got here. I have no memory of seeing the scene that just happened. I was
If you start to try to organize those thoughts, and you're trying, it's less of a you're remembering it as much as almost like you're piecing things together. Like you realize the gun is in your hands. You try to think about why a gun would be in your hands. You remember you do what just happened to Kai. And then you see those moments from a different angle, from the person who was indeed hunting him.
But I wasn't hunting him. That would kill me too. I couldn't have been. Rebecca's just kind of like alarmed that she's holding a shotgun. I mean, I will say she's not a hunter, but given Abraham, he probably did take her out on a few occasions just so she would know how to use a shotgun. Obviously, very unladylike, but he wants his child to be practical and knowledgeable, and knowing how to use a gun cannot hurt her, can only make her stronger. So she just kind of like takes a deep breath and just kind of looks down the sight line to try to figure out what she just shot at.
And as you're doing that, Rebecca, you hear a familiar voice say, "What's wrong, babe? Losing your nerve?"
Okay. She just takes a slow breath, just kind of looks to the side to see. Isaiah, I'm assuming. Yeah, just didn't Siobhan shoot you yesterday, 2 days ago?
Siobhan, shoot me.
Uh huh.
I don't think she has it in her to do that.
What did I just what did I just shoot?
You just let the prey go, Rebecca. That's what you just did.
What was the prey? I don't. Was it a deer?
Yeah, yeah, it was the deer.
Oh, what? Why are we hunting? You know, I don't. I don't like to use guns.
We were trying something new, something different.
Well, I guess I'm not good at it. Sorry.
I
Should
mean, what's a shame, Rebecca, is I don't think that's true, babe. I think I think you had that deer right in your sights. You just lost your nerve.
mm, I pulled the trigger. I How could I have lost my nerve but still pulled the trigger?
You can lose your nerve if you purposefully miss the shot. And I think you did, babe. I think you didn't have it in you to follow through.
Then I suppose we should try something different from hunting, right? If I didn't have the nerve for it, we could go back to town or we could walk through the woods, just the two of us.
We could do that. That is something we could do. But you're letting your prey get away.
I don't see it though. Where did it's already gone?
We could keep hunting, track that deer down.
No, I don't want to.
Don't tell me that you're getting cold feet.
Maybe I am. So let's not hunt. Let's do something different. There's plenty of deer. We could always go another day.
And Isaiah, who's been leaning back, kind of lounging right next to you, pushes himself up so that he's sitting and he studies you for a long moment. And you're not quite sure what he sees, but he sees something because a look of deep disappointment crosses his face. Oh, babe, you've changed.
What do you mean?
You're not going to get your hands dirty anymore, are you?
Maybe I don't want to anymore. Maybe we don't have to. Maybe we could do something different.
And Rebecca, I did this all for you.
Then it shouldn't be a problem when I say I don't want to do this anymore, right? If you're doing it all for me, right? So I've been doing this for you too. And if I want to do something different, then that should make things easier, right?
I don't want to just have to change because you've changed. You made me into this, and now you're just gonna leave me here?
No, I'm saying come with me and be something different. I'm not leaving you. I'm saying let's do something new. Let's try something else that's not hunting.
I think I would actually like you to roll. What do I want you to roll? I would like you to roll social prowess.
Social. That's a sociability roll. Whoa, she's not good at that. That's surprising. Basic math. Social prowess. It's a 5. She got a 0 in sociability. Unsurprising to no one. I mean, unsurprising to everyone.
Incredible. I love it when the dice tell a story.
Yeah.
So don't forget to mark insight.
Oh, thank you. Yay.
And so, Rebecca, you make this impassioned plea to your boyfriend, Isaiah, the man who killed for you, who you killed with. And that look of disappointment hasn't left his face, not entirely, but in a flash, there's this moment where that disappointment deepens and then it's gone. His face is completely neutral. And he just says, yeah, babe, let's do something different.
What would you like to do? I mean, I have ideas, but if you have ideas, I'd like to hear them.
No, I'd like to hear your ideas.
Well, I think it could be nice to go out on the water. You want to take a boat out today? To go sailing?
I think sailing is a wonderful idea. And with that, Rebecca, you take a moment, you take a breath. You're moving to head out of the hunter's blind and be able to go track down a boat, go out on the water. And you blink and you're somewhere else. This time, Harlow, you are in a familiar space. You've been here before, even though it has changed so many different times, forming and reforming, but you know what the church in the wild looks like. You know those rows and rows of benches, the pyre that is set up, the different cabins and cottages and other structures for habitation. And you're sitting there in front of that pyre, just sitting. The breeze is cool on your skin. There's no unusual sounds around you. There are the typical sounds of the woods, of leaves whispering, of animals moving through the underbrush. So it's not an unusual silence in any way, but there's no footsteps. You, unlike Kai, do not have that feeling of being watched or observed. You are simply sitting here back in this familiar space, and I'm curious as Harlow looks around what goes through their head. You are muted.
Think she's trying to form thoughts of I am missing time now. Why am I missing time? What am I doing here when it's not here anymore? And I think they would like to use the move Owl's Eyes to read the room to figure out what is this fuckery.
I would love that.
See, Harlow is. So read the room is a awareness. Okay.
Yep.
No, it's a 5 again with their +1.
Well, the cool thing is because you used your move, you still get to ask your one special question.
Cool. I will mark insight. Damn, we're racking that up. What would someone perched above see that no one on the ground can?
And I think that's a very apt one for this situation because Harlow, what you actually get is the ability to see what else is happening to the others you're connected with. So you are able to have this experience of almost lifting up out of your body all the way into the sky as though you are a bird who is flying. And you see a figure in a canoe out on one of the lakes. You see two figures walking out of the woods towards the different body of water. And you realize, for whatever reason, all four of you are currently separate. Though you don't know in this moment where Ivy is.
Well, that's not where we left things. And below me, is there anyone else in the church, at the Church in the Wild location?
No, that is as quiet and empty as you felt it was. There is no one else there. I think, though, as you do look down at the church in particular, you notice something strange. Because as you were taking in the scenery and the space around you, you were noticing this looks exactly like it did when I was here, when the cult was active. But then you notice there's almost this strange distortion you get when you see it from above, where those structures that while you are sitting there, from your point of view, look completely intact and as they were. You can see the wear and tear of years on these different buildings. Some that have indeed been burned, others that are just crumbling and falling apart.
Okay. So we are definitely being fucked with, but is the separation because we did this? Because someone did this to us? I think Harlow, given that it's Owl's Eyes, she can't move locations. She has to they have to come back down to themselves. Will allow that and just kind of watch. Does the ship, as they go back to their body, is the location still look 70s or modern day destruction? Like, does she pop that
It's
bubble as they come back down?
no, indeed, it's almost the reverse. That as you come back down, you see the buildings almost being rebuilt. You see them repairing themselves in real time, going back to as you remember them from the 70s.
Cool, 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 cool. I think Harlow just kind of remembering everything they saw and learned while observing this cult and learning its secrets, just kind of hands in the pockets, just kind of walks over to the Church of the Wild, just kind of looks at the wall and just kind of pulls out a pen because they always have they have a few pens on them. Uh, they pull out a pen from their pocket and they just kind of under one of the windows write the first line of their book that exposed the cult. It was the sea of Slatethorn tastes not of salt but ashes.
How does Harlow feel as they write those words?
There's a mix of emotions because they did it. They published that book. They exposed this cult so that people could find out and something could be done about it before like the whole island burned, before other locations burned. And it just cost them their life. So there is a bitterness. There's like a bitter taste along with the it's very much like a Pyrrhic victory, I guess. Just very bitter of like, I still fucking won. I still beat you at your game. Would have liked to live longer than your little acolytes let me when they finally caught up to me, but that doesn't change the fact that everyone found out, everyone realized what was going on. They couldn't, the ones who already knew couldn't hide it anymore. And all fell apart. So fuck you, I did it.
And Harlow, you're feeling all of those different emotions, all of the complicated feelings you understandably have because of what happened and what the cost was. I must ask, did Harlow take the mark?
Well, had to blend in, and only one person didn't have to take the mark. So, yeah, they went deep into the cult, so they had to take the mark.
You feel that burn on your forearm start to heat up.
Yeah, I get it. Shut the fuck up. So we all lost something, didn't we? And Harlow just kind of
Nothing.
rubs at their arm, just irritation, just kind of paces around, just kind of scanning the layout.
And that's the thing, Harlow. There's no answer. There's no feeling that anyone is around you. It's not as though the bearer of the sacred flame is nearby, and that is why your burn is reminding you of the same pain you felt as when it was given. And I think that's even more unsettling because as you're walking around, as you're seeing everything as it was, as you're realizing that as you saw from above, you are completely alone. Well, if that mark is heating up, that must be coming from you. That's not coming from anyone else. That's not coming from someone who was fucking with you.
Okay, what? I know I wasn't altruistic. I know I wasn't doing it to be a hero. Like, I wanted it to stop, but I didn't want any more people to get, like, burned at a stake. Like, it's the fucking 1600s. Just, yeah, that was part of the goal, but I wanted the recognition too. I wanted to show everyone that I could do this, that I could do what people in power couldn't or wouldn't. Someone had to do something. And yeah, part of it was for myself, but it still stopped it. I wasn't the hero, okay? I get it. I wasn't the hero. Never said I was. Just because you're not a hero doesn't mean you can't do something about bullshit happening.
And I think in that moment, Harlow, as as you're reflecting on that idea of being a hero or not being a hero, you blink and you're somewhere else. And this time, Ivy, you're standing in front of the partially burned down tuberculosis ward that you used to work at. You're seeing it in all of its disrepair and decay. And you are standing there smelling the mixture of salt and ash that one always smells from this location. And you're completely alone. There's no Kai, there's no Rebecca, there's no Harlow. There's no James.
Her hand just kind of goes to the wedding ring on her finger. She just takes a deep breath and is like, I'm gonna find you. I found you before, I'm gonna find you again. Yeah. We were supposed to save more than we did. think there is a part of Ivy that has always been conflicted about the fire because being as a nurse, do no harm is part of that oath. And while Thurston was doing a lot of harm, and there were a lot of people who were never going to get better because of those tests and experiments, she still wonders, like, was there a better way to do this? Was there something we could have done differently to protect everyone we tried to save? Is there something we could have done that wouldn't lead to all this, these wounds on this island that just keep bleeding and bleeding? But there is also a part of her that is like, it's happened. We can't change the past, but how do we stop the bleeding? How do we let it heal over? How do we stitch it closed and just let it be just a memory that doesn't hurt anyone in the future? How can we stop this pain from continuing over and over and over again? Why didn't he make it out? I had him in my arms. What don't I remember? Why didn't he get out? He was just a little boy. What happened? What can't I remember?
And so, Ivy, you are reflecting on all of that. You are thinking about how this was the start of what happened, how you need this to be the end of this pattern continuing over and over and over again of the five of you being brought back here to Slatethorn for another tragedy. I think it would be fair to roll echoes of the past as you are trying to remember what happened,
Oh,
how you and Russell were not able to escape, and what prevented you from saving more.
shadow, which I don't believe is her strong point. It's not, but that's okay. We'll see what happens. That's cool. That's an 8.
Okay. You will take a point of psychic damage,
Fine. Dope.
and you do not need to ask one of those questions. I'll instead answer the question that you asked, which is what happened, what prevented me from escaping. Before I describe that, I do want to hear from you, Ivy. What was the plan? What was the course of action that you remember you and James and Gwyd deciding on?
Remember, Gwyd was the one who came up with the fire idea. And it was initially just an idea, just a spark. Because people were getting sicker, no one was getting better. And yeah, at the time, it was very difficult to treat tuberculosis, but then it wasn't just contained to the ward, it was spreading. And it was Thurston. His weird ideals of disease and beauty and the intersection of that was causing it. And how are we supposed to stop him? Like, she remembers surely a fire is too uncontrollable, but James saying, but we can control it. We know where to set it. We can ensure it does the least damage possible. There's always going to be harm involved. And in the end, would it not be kinder to the people who weren't getting better, who were just being prolonged in this painful existence? Would it be better to let them find peace? She doesn't know if she's the person who should have made that call. Said, but something had to be done for the people that weren't sick yet, that could be saved. So if it felt easy, she wouldn't have been the one to make the decision. The moment those choices feel easy is the moment you shouldn't be making those decisions. And it wasn't easy. But there were children there too. And so she agreed to go along with the plan. And she's stronger than James. He was always the more mentally inclined, but she dealt more closely with more active patients, so she would get the ones that had trouble moving, the little ones she could get. They coordinated which areas to go to. Gwydion was mainly setting the fires, but it was strategic. It was a controlled burn, and maybe the smoke would have gotten the people before the flames did. So she had been part of getting people out. She knew which exits to take, which paths would be away from the burn points. And that was her responsibility.
You're remembering all of that, Ivy. You're remembering how everything was going according to plan. And you're not quite sure where the plan faltered. You just know that suddenly places were burning that were not supposed to burn, or were not supposed to burn yet. Almost like the timelines got changed or moved around, but that meant that then you were scrambling. You were trying to figure out who would be most affected by that and who needed to be brought out sooner as a result. And those are hard decisions to make, especially when you started to realize there's not enough time for all of them. These people weren't supposed to burn. But I also need to save these people. And I can't be in two places at once. How did you make those decisions, Ivy?
She just had to use her judgment of who had best chance of surviving, who had the most to lose, and how fast she had to make those decisions. Like her instinct when the fires were getting out of control was, I need to find James. This wasn't the plan. I need to see where James is, if he's okay. But she's like, he would be doing the same for me, but we have to stick to the plan. We have our meeting point outside. He'll be there. But right now I need to focus on the people we agreed needed to get out. So she kind of swallowed that down and she kept her mask on to keep the smoke out and just had to make split second decisions of who's too sick to move, who has the better chance of living, who has people that depend on them that she knew of outside. She doesn't know the intimate details of every patient. So in the back of her mind, she's just thinking, did I make the wrong choice? But also, this can't be the wrong choice because everyone should have been getting out. I'm making the wrong choice and letting people die. I just have to live with that. So it's very much split second decisions of getting who she could out, unlocking doors, pointing people to the paths to get out that can move on their own.
And you're doing the best you can in this situation. Ivy, this situation that has spiraled so far out of control. You talked about a controlled burn, and it is anything but that. At this point, it is sheer panic and chaos, and you are having to decide, do I go left or right? Do I save this person or this person? Because the flames are almost here, and I can't get them both out. And one of the people you encounter is Russell. You can see enough in the room behind him to realize that his roommate, who you knew, was very sick and already in the last few days of his life. You know that he's not someone you can save, but Russell is, or at least you hope he is, because with a roommate that sick, everyone here has been exposed, everyone here is sick, but how much sicker could Russell get? But you ignore that, you pick him up. And the whole way around you is filled with smoke. It, in some places, is burning. You are just having to push forward, to push on. I imagine you're trying to cover, Russell's mouth as much as you can so that he isn't affected to an extreme degree by the smoke inhalation. And then a door swings open ahead. And it's a door to a stairwell. You know that much. You know that much because it's the stairwell that you were aiming to go down to get Russell out. And a figure steps out, and the white of his suit is stained black with smoke and ash. And well as he steps out, the look in his eyes is one of desperation. When he locks eyes with you, it's a look of satisfaction. And you know, without a doubt, Ivy, that Dr. Thurston is not going to let you leave. Not without a fight.
Have to get him out. If you want to have whatever it is you want to have it while we're on the stairwell out of here. This place is going to collapse. We don't have time for this, Thurston. We need to go.
How do you try to get past him, Ivy?
I think she just tries to kind of rush him, just kind of shoulder checks him, obviously shielding Russell from him, but she's trying to just brute force her way past him because there's no time. Everything's on fire and she needs to get the baby out. He's already sick. He could get sicker. She doesn't have time for this. She doesn't have time for Thurston's bullshit. So she just does a bum rush.
I'd like you to roll with physicality unless there's a move that you want to use.
Because it's not really fight or flight in this moment, so I think physicality makes the most sense. Well, this dice tell a story. That is a 5. My +2. We're going to put these dice away. We're going to take some new dice.
And so mark an insight. Make sure you do that.
Woo! Ooh, I can level up. I'm taking a lot of faith.
And so, Ivy, you see it play out in your mind just as you described. You keep moving forward. You knock Thurston out of the way if he refuses to move. You don't let him delay you, but in reality, you realize that there was this moment when you froze and you try to understand why. You who have been moving through this chaotic crisis of a situation, what is it about this man that made you hesitate? And you remember seeing the glint of light off of metal in his hand, of the sight of a scalpel. And it was the scalpel that made you pause. It was the scalpel that made you hesitate, that made you misstep in that way. And you remember, though you don't remember the outcome, the floor above starting to come down around you. Flaming boards starting to fall, starting to block your path towards Thurston. And you just remember the smile on Thurston's face as he watched you standing there. And when you come back to yourself, Ivy, you're no longer in front of that old abandoned, burned down building. You're inside of it. You're up on that floor. And you can see all of the debris around where you are standing. In fact, you're not sure how you made it in because this does not look like it's a place that one could walk through. You can't even figure out a path behind or ahead. You're just in the midst of this debris.
Kind of instinctively, like, clutches where she'd been holding Russell and then just remembers as a memory. I would have pushed him to the stairs. I would have put him down and shoved him and told him to run. I did that, right? Before Thurston. I wouldn't have left him with Thurston. He didn't make it. Why didn't he make it? Thurston, I swear to God, if I see your ghost, I'm going to ruin fucking suit.
And I think it's that gets you thinking, Ivy, because yes, Dr. Thurston was absolutely the villain in this case. He was doing horrific things, experiments to patients, experiments that may have extended to staff, if we're being honest. He was someone who had no sense of ethics whatsoever, even for the time. And yet, you find yourself thinking what you had thought earlier. What caused this wound? What would heal this wound? The more and more you focus on Dr. Thurston as being the cause, the less and less you acknowledge your role and responsibility. The role that James and Gwydion played. You don't understand the role that Russell could have played because he's a child. He was just there at the wrong place at the wrong time. But he didn't do anything, at least as far as you know. But it makes you think, if it were as simple as this is all Dr. Thurston's fault, why would the rest of you still be caught up in this?
I think Ivy just kind of feels the weight of that, of everything they tried to do and failed to do, just kind of pressing on her like the building as it collapsed in the fire, and just kind of sinks to her knees in the hallway and just says, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We we didn't we could have found a better way. We should have found a better way. Were we were caring for you. We were helping you. And that's what Thurston should have been doing, and he wasn't. And then we made it worse too. And I'm sorry. It wasn't any of your faults. You didn't deserve his experiments. You didn't deserve his fascination, and you didn't deserve our failed heroics. You didn't deserve our heroics at all. You just deserve to have someone stand up for you and put their foot down and stop him. We hadn't been. We should have just. We should have just killed the man ourselves. We should have just accepted. If we. Police weren't going to do anything. They wouldn't do anything. This was the only hospital. He was the main doctor. They wouldn't do anything. We should have just killed him ourselves. We should have taken that responsibility ourselves, and instead we made it everyone else's problem, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but it's not your faults. So don't stay trapped here because of us.
Ivy, the ghosts of Slatethorn have no answer and no absolution to give. But in the silence that follows, you do find yourself wondering, would it have been different if we had just killed Thurston? Would it have been better? Would it have been worse? Would it have been the same? But you think, maybe, just maybe, if you're willing to get your hands stained with blood, that could be a path to follow. And I think that is where we are going to take our break and then jump back in to see where the second part of this session takes us. So hang around. We'll be back in 10 minutes for more horrors to commence. See you soon. All right, we are back for the second half of our duet session of Redacted with Steph's haunted house full of ghosts, who are not so much a haunted house right now, but individual houses. With that, before we jump into this second part, I am going to add a few other content warnings based on where we are headed. So, for this second part, we are going to be navigating content that involves abusive relationships and domestic violence, violence between partners, and just want to put that out there. So, again, if that crosses any lines for you, you can step away, take a break, take care of yourselves. We will be, of course, continuing to use our safety tools on our side of the screen, but we want to make sure anyone watching this is okay with where we are heading and is aware of the type of content that could involve. So, Ivy, we left you meditating on that thought of would it have been better, would it have been different, even if not better, if rather than burning down the tuberculosis ward, you had just found a way to take out Dr. Thurston. And Ivy, we see you there in the midst of this destroyed wing of the TB ward, apologizing to those whose lives were lost that night, apologizing for your role in it. And as you have been making this impassioned plea, you close your eyes and once again you blink, and Rebecca Dalton, you are somewhere else. You're somewhere familiar. You are at your father's house where you have always lived. And there's a few moments of confusion, a few moments of wondering, how did I get here? Wasn't I somewhere else before? But the pieces start to fall into place. You and Isaiah had a wonderful day. You went out sailing. You went out to get milkshakes afterwards. He walked you home, kissed you goodnight. And now it's time to get ready for bed. How are you feeling as you go through your nighttime routine?
Hopeful with an undercurrent of I'm forgetting something important that I think she's not focusing on entirely because of how well things went earlier. How she was able to kind of assert a boundary and he respected it. She's she's trying. So she's just saying her nightly prayers and just kind of feeling hopeful. And trying not to be too bothered by that. I'm forgetting something. What am I forgetting? We'll deal with that in the morning.
And Rebecca, you hear something from downstairs. And there's a moment where you're almost able to let it go because whether it was a door opening and closing, whether it was the sound of footsteps, whether it was both, I mean, this is your father's house. But then you realize you didn't see your father this evening when you got home. And that's strange, but you think, well, okay, that's him coming home. Obviously, that's what's happening right now. But something about that doesn't completely feel right. You're not sure why it doesn't, but there's something about that that leaves you with a question mark, with wondering. What do you do?
I think she kind of pauses. Well, she finishes her prayer and just kind of keeps her rosary in hand, just kind of goes out to the landing to greet her father, if because of course it's her father, right? She hasn't seen him tonight. She wants to say hi, so she just kind of goes to the stairs and just, Papa?
There's nothing, just silence, and it's one of those uncomfortable and unnerving types of silence where you know there's someone there. Like, you can't quite hear anything. It's not like you can hear their breathing. It's not like you're hearing wood creak beneath their feet, but there's that awareness that you're not alone. And yet, your dad, if this is your dad, doesn't answer.
She's gonna go back to her room and light the candlestick. I mean, I know they have electric lighting, but aesthetic, she does like candles. Um, she kind of takes up the candle holder just to kind of have something a little weighty in her hand and just kind of goes back to the stairs. She says, Mama?
There's silence once again, and it's in calling for your mother that you remember why it felt strange when you had thought your dad was coming home, because your parents are on a trip this weekend. They're not here. You're home alone, or at least you were alone.
Rebecca's definitely having a moment of what would father do in this situation? Um, well, I know where my father keeps his guns and if they're locked and if it's a lock I can open.
I would say that you do know the answer to all of those. You know where he keeps his guns, you know that it is locked, and you know that he is the only one who can unlock them.
Um, oh, Papa, would you have a gun? I can't get Papa's guns. So what would Papa want me to do? She's just gonna kind of quietly make her way downstairs towards the front door.
And so you make your way downstairs, Rebecca. The candlelight. Well, I guess I have to ask, you'd mentioned candle is for aesthetic. Are the lights in the house on, or are you navigating it only by candlelight?
I think she probably would have left a couple lights on just because, looks more lived in.
And so you make your way down the stairs, and there is the warm glow of those lights. You are not stepping into darkness. Though, weren't there more of those lights on before? It it seems like some of the lights are off. Wasn't the kitchen illuminated? The dining room light is on. The living room is lit, but that's mainly by the fire in the fireplace. But the kitchen is in darkness, and that draws your eyes towards it, just because how can you not try to peer into those shadows and see what little you can through the moonlight spilling through the windows? But you also wanted to look at the front door. The front door is open.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the neighbors.
And so, Rebecca, you look at the front door, you see that it's ajar. You know you do not want to be in this house, and you have that thought of, I should go to the neighbors. And you blank, and Harlow, where were you staying after you wrote the book about the cult?
Well, given that they got most of them, they didn't get all of them. And she knows the few they didn't get are going to be problems. So they probably are staying, I'm trying to think, 70s order. Probably an apartment, not the first floor, was their home. And I guess my question is, would there have been like a series of attempts before? How many attempts were made on Harlow? Because that would inform whether she moved or not.
I don't think prior to this one that there were any attempts on where you lived. I think previously there had been attempts on you while you were in transit, whether it was while you were walking at night, whether it was when you were in a garage, something like that, but nothing that made you worry that your home would not be safe.
In which case, Harlow is still in their apartment because people, it's better not to be isolated. They have beefed up the locks and security on the door and the fire escape. And there are definitely a series of hidden weapons around the house, but apartment, but that is where they're staying. They figure there's safety in numbers. There are people, someone sees or hears something suspicious, they're going to call the police. And yeah, so they have just trying not to get overly paranoid, but are still paranoid.
What does that security on the doors and fire escape look like?
Oh, the security on the door, there's like a spread of like 5 different heavy duty, like sliding locks. Obviously, there's the deadbolt, but there's like from top to bottom, there's a series of locks to keep the door from having any weak points to kick in. The fire escape is through. Did my electrical cord, Nancy? Speaking of fire, bad. Um, is through typically, I think it's through a window. So they do have. So you can't really get anyone to have metal grating because it is a fire. See, it is a fire escape. But it's also noisy, and people going up it would hear someone going up their fire escape. But they do have probably one of those bars they keep it from being opened, and probably a setup of I'm trying to think like a tripwire that'll ring a bell if the window is broken or opened. So not like a bell under the window, it's kind of like on the wall, but there is a tripwire that if there's movement around the window, it's going to ring.
And Harlow, you are standing in the middle of your apartment and staring at the front door. And there's a moment of confusion where you think, was the door just partway open? I remember a door being cracked, but no, the door is shut, the locks are all set, and You wonder why you're standing there staring when the knock comes again.
I mean, Harlow's not saying anything. Harlow's going to the peephole to see who the fuck's out there. Quietly, quietly. They're not making noise.
Harlow, you move over to the peephole and you peer out. There's no one there.
Nope. Goodbye. We're not opening that fucking door.
And you wonder exactly about that because you do catch sight of something. You're not quite sure what it is. It's positioned in a way where it might be a package, but it's just in that part of the peephole where things start to get distorted, as far as you can see. It's right down there on the floor at the door. So you can see there's a shape. But again, there's no one there.
That could wait. Just gonna walk away from the door.
And we see what Harlow didn't see. That as your back was to the fire escape, a shadow moved. And we see, and it makes no sense because of course things like this aren't possible, that even though that person can't reach it, the latch on the window starts to move. That something holds the bell still, keeps it from ringing, as the window is cracked just the slightest bit. And we see smoke start to pour in from the fire escape. That shadowed figure, if they were a flesh and blood figure at all, becoming more and more insubstantial and pouring through that small crack into your apartment. That shadow coalescing back into a figure that stands in your kitchen, watching you as you peer out, trying to see what is going on in the hallway.
So when I turn
And
around, what do I see?
you see a figure dressed in black, hood of what might be a cloak, might be a sweatshirt up, and you see the glint of moonlight on the knife in their hand.
We are grabbing a heavy umbrella from the umbrella stand and swinging because Harlow knows I'm not going to unlock the front door in time. So I need to get by this person.
Roll with physicality. Roll me some fight or flight.
Heck yeah. 7.
Okay. And so with that, you strike the figure with the umbrella and it staggers them a bit, but not enough to stop them from splashing out, cutting across your arm with that knife.
Mm-hmm. So Harlow is going to Harlow is going to go dive for where the because I imagine it's an apartment, so there's like the kitchen on one side and then like the living room on the other.
Yep.
She's gonna go to the living room where she keeps a pistol, and she's gonna grab her pistol to shoot this person because she did not know they're made of smoke. So we're treating this as a human.
And so, Harlow, you are scrambling for where you've hidden that pistol and moving through. And when you turn back, what frightens you? Well, perhaps frightens you. I do not want to assume Harlow's emotions in response to this. That there's no longer one figure. There's two. One that is holding a knife, and the other who isn't holding anything. Well, that's not entirely true. There is what looks like fire cradled in their hand. And they are going to throw that fire directly at you. What would you like to do?
Like just a fucking fireball?
Mm-hmm.
Like not a Molotov? It's just that's not right. Did Harlow see any supernatural shit when they were at the cult?
Well, Harlow, you ingratiated yourself into the cult, and a big part of the cult was the use of psychedelics and things like that. And so I think you've never been completely sure. You saw things that were as strange and unnerving and impossible as this, but you were tripping all the time. So was that the substances? Was that the fact that the bearer of the sacred flame had indeed tapped into something beyond what is meant to be possible in this world? You're not sure, but you know, at least as far as you're sure, you're pretty sure that you're not on LSD currently.
Walkies, thank you. Harlow's gonna dodge because it's a fucking fireball. What the fuck? And I guess we'll see how this dodge goes. Would that be full, just physicality, or is that flight? Fight or
I think
flight?
in this case, I would make it physicality,
Okay,
a straight physicality, because
that's
you're
fine.
not trying to flee quite yet.
That's fine. That is a 7.
Okay. You are able to dodge, but I think this makes a lot of sense. You make it out of the way. You don't get hit by the fireball. But two things happen. One, that throws you off balance, which means the figure with the knife is able to come at you. It also means that the fireball hits the wall behind you, and your curtains start to burn.
Fuck's sake.
Harlow, you are tackled by the figure with the knife, and you see that blade held up above you. And that figure says, "It's time." And then you blink, and you're the one holding that knife. But it's not Harlow who's beneath you, Ivy. It's Dr. Thurston.
Oh,
You have him pinned up against his desk. That desk, you remember, that far too ornate one. And you realize it's not a knife, it's a letter opener in your hand. He is looking up at you. There's clearly been a scuffle because his face is bruised and bleeding, and his teeth, as he laughs, you can see the blood in his mouth. But he just laughs at you. What do you do?
What are my injuries right now, currently? There's a
You
scuffle.
feel, yeah, you feel bruised. You're not noticing anything that is a mortal wound by any stretch of the imagination. But you you feel mostly intact. It seems like he's taken more of the damage, and I think in line with that question, there is this thought that goes through your mind of like, this isn't how it happened, but this is how it could be.
She just kind of presses the letter opener harder against his throat and just says, "Why? Why?"
And he says, why does it matter? Do it. Do it. I dare you. Do it.
She takes the letter opener and, using the blunt end, she strikes him very hard in the temple to knock him out.
I am still going to have you roll with physicality. We'll consider this to be a fight roll.
A fight roll? Okay. Well, she's good. Sid. That is a 7.
And so, Ivy, you go to do this. And I think it's in that moment of decision, in that moment of hesitation, you feel a sharp, horrifying pain in your side as Thurston drives a pair of scissors into you. You respond, as you said, by hitting him with the handle of the letter opener, and it does indeed knock him out. But you were wondering before if you had suffered a severe or extreme injury, and you hadn't. But now you have. He is a doctor. He knew right where to strike you in a way that is going to be very hard to recover from, even though he did not strike your heart directly.
Are the scissors still in there?
Yes.
Okay. She's not pulling them out because they're keeping the blood in, which is still very painful. Just kind of is like, I guess it didn't matter if I killed you or not. You were always going to stab me. Um, she will, however, cut the back of one of his ankles because if he wakes up, she's not going to let him get out either.
Okay.
And then she will move as much as she can towards the exit if they are still near that same. Well, I guess his whatever exit she can try to find that is nearby and not engulfed in flame.
And it's interesting, Ivy, because you'd had that thought before of this isn't how it happened, and that thought strikes you again as you realize your lungs weren't burning while you were in there. There's no smell of smoke. The hospital is completely intact. It is evening, so there are less people here. It is staffed, for the night, which is why you would presume no one heard anything that had just gone on. But this isn't how it happened. This is how it could have happened if you dealt with the problem yourself, if you dealt with Thurston sooner.
I still would have died. No one else would have died. Well, given that this is a scenario, she is, instead of leaving the room, going to stumble back over to where he is unconscious and just slit his throat. Because if this is just a scenario, I'm not going to be the only one dying in it. If this isn't burning, she's going to make sure he stays dead. It's just like, okay, right. Self sacrifice. And then what? Would James have taken over? Would that not have cared that a German doctor was in charge? Someone better, maybe. Would he have even wanted to take over without? I get it. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to risk dying because I wanted to. And so did everyone else here. No one wanted to die. Who am I to cheat death? Wait, is that the point? It would have just been me and Thurston. Okay. Okay. Just me and just Thurston.
And Ivy, as you reflect on all of that, as you reflect on that outcome that you were so afraid of, things start to happen very quickly because you slit Thurston's throat and you see his blood spill, you see a puddle begin to form, and then you blink and it's your throat that has been slit, Rebecca. You are lying on the floor of the kitchen, having moved. You don't know why, because you were trying to leave, but something made you step forward, made you move towards that part of the house. And you remember it, it almost felt like you were sleepwalking. Like you were watching from a distance as your body walked and moved towards that spot of moonlight on the kitchen floor. And you almost didn't fight when Isaiah rose up out of the shadows, a kitchen knife in his hand. And now you are on the floor, your blood forming a pool around you. As Isaiah looks down at you, and he doesn't look angry, he doesn't look in a frenzy, he doesn't look like anything like that. It's honestly almost scarier that he just looks calm, he just looks resigned, and you think, even though it wasn't violent like this, that's what all of the other girls saw. Just someone who was doing what needed to be done. What goes through your head, Rebecca, since you can't speak?
Just kind of heartbreak, because how could Isaiah do this? Because I wasn't being sad or void of despair anymore. I was being hopeful, and isn't this kind of what I deserve for what I did to the other girls? Because I thought they were like me? But why does why does he get to escape punishment for that? And why would he want to punish someone he loves? And I think Rebecca just kind of reaches up for him, just with one hand, because the other is on her throat.
And he is actually already reaching for you to take your hand. The the knife has been abandoned somewhere at your side, and he clasps your hand and squeezes gently, almost tenderly, and says, "It's okay, Rebecca. It's okay. It'll be over soon."
She just looks at him with confusion. It's kind of like trying to like ask with her expression why.
And he says, "Because it was always going to be like this. It was always going to be this way." And then the voice continues, but it's no longer Isaiah, as the voice says, "Wasn't it, Harlow?" And Harlow, you are laying in your living room, gun having been knocked from your hand, and there is a kitchen knife through your chest.
Is the figure still like kneeling over her with the pool?
Yes.
Just kind of through the pain, she just sneers and then pops two fingers right through their eye and hooks onto the socket. Because fuck you.
And you do so. I'm not even going to make you roll for that, Harlow. The figure screams, of course, because you have just taken out their eyes, and tries to reel back, tries to get away from you.
Why
I
are you so
imagine,
scared of the truth?
and that figure doesn't answer. That figure is too busy screaming. The other, though, the one who's still standing there almost as a sentry, says, "You misunderstand. We're not scared of the truth." You're not being punished for the truth. You're being punished for your betrayal.
Just kind of snickers and then just spits a mouthful of blood in their face. Or wherever it lands, she's dying. So it's the thought that counts.
It more spatters against their feet since they are still standing. They are out of range of that, and they do not seem particularly concerned. Indeed, they simply say, "You always knew what the punishment would be, Harlow." And they snap their fingers, and your body is engulfed in flame. Hi.
Yeah.
We left you quite a while ago on a canoe, getting away from whoever had been hunting you, and you are still out on the water. You are still out in the water, and you are seeing all of this reflected in the water around you.
The
You,
fuck?
you see Harlow burning. You see Rebecca bleeding out. And you see Ivy reflecting on her fear of death and how that stayed her hand. And you think about what she was saying, that she was always going to die. You think about the fact that she wasn't willing to pay that cost. And you can't help but think of the images you've seen of your own death, of not a kitchen knife, not a pair of scissors, but a scalpel.
Well, how does me dying fix this shit? Huh? We already lost Sophie. Someone already died. Like, is dying the point? Is it because of Ivy that I have to die? Is it because she was supposed to die with Thurston? It was just supposed to be them? So what, it has to be me and Sophie? Even though we're not the same fucking people? Is that it?
And you can't say for certain, Kai, but part of you thinks, yeah, that's exactly it.
Fuck
That's
y'all.
exactly fucking it.
Okay, look. Kai's just arguing with the water at this point. Just like, well, I've already been shot. Like, is this gonna kill me? Is that gonna fix it if I just die in this fucking boat? Like, is that the only answer? Like, I have to die because some other version of me didn't die before? I mean, she did die. Like, at the end of it, yeah, other people died. I'm just talking to myself. I sound like a fucking crazy person. This fucking crazy island. So what? I came here to die. Me and Sophie are supposed to die, and everyone else can just move on with their fucking lives. Is that it? Is that fucking it? How does that fix shit?
And the thing is, Kai, there are no answers. You watch as Arlo burns, and then that image fades away. You watch as Rebecca continues to bleed out, Isaiah offering her meaningless words of comfort, and then that fades out. And then it's just you and Ivy.
Ivy, come on. There's another solution, right? Like there's got to be like what we just keep dying? We just got to be the only two that die? Like no one else can die but us? Like come on. Come on, you're smart? Like is that my answer? Like that's it? I didn't I didn't even start I didn't start this shit. Look, I there's another answer, right? I can fucking reach into dreams and jump around dreams and shit. I can find another answer. I can find another solution somewhere, right? There's things can have more than one solution, right?
What does Ivy say as she hears Kai say these words, as she looks over into a mirror that may or may not have been in Thurston's office before? It does seem like him. He is vain enough to have wanted to see his own face.
Like full length. Yeah, I think she kind of half reaches, half slumps towards the mirror and kind of touches it, and it like ripples like the water Kai is yelling at. It's just like, if there is for you, I can't see it, and I'm sorry. But this was the answer for me. And you're right, you're not me. You're stuck in this too because I was afraid to die. Just like you. And it is bullshit. Yeah, it's so much bullshit, Ivy. So I just die. Is that even a guarantee? Is that a guarantee that it fixes shit? Because right now, I don't know how that's a fucking guarantee. Wouldn't it have been enough that I died that you died, that Rebecca died, that Harlow died? Like it's like it's not just death, it has to be a specific way. Fuck off. Fuck this island. You can just do like a cleansing or like an unbinding of souls or some shit. I don't know. I'm not an occultist. I don't know. I was just kind of like, I don't know either. I really hope you're right, though. I don't really want anyone else dying for my mistake. But if that is the only answer, you won't be alone if it happens.
Kai, I have a question for you. Knowing everything you know, now with this piece of realizing that the answer may indeed be for you to sacrifice yourself, for you to pull that heroic sacrifice that Ivy didn't do. If you had the option if you could run, would you leave the island?
Man, if I run, I'm just gonna keep coming back to this fucking island like everyone else did. I can't run from the island. I'm just running in circles. Because I'm always gonna fucking end up back here. You can't run away from this fucking island. You could just always run back to it.
And I think in recognizing that, in realizing that you would make the choice to stay, even though it does not feel like much of a choice, that you would rather find a solution to fix this than run and maybe buy yourself more time, but end up back here at some point in the future when the next events happen. You realize that has taken you a step closer to being what Ivy tried to be, to trying to be the hero, to look for a way to fix it
Not a
instead
hero.
of just escaping.
I didn't want to be a hero. I'm not a hero. I just wanted to do theater and make costumes and look cute. This sucks. Not Ivy. This sucks.
And I think in that moment, Kai, as you are feeling exasperated and fed up and overwhelmed and all of these other emotions, your hand touches the water, just kind of falls over the edge in that way, and you feel Ivy's hand grasp yours. She told you that you are not alone, that you would not be alone when the end comes. And even though you might not want it, you feel that comfort, you feel that strength pass to you. I'm going to invite you to give Kai one of the moves from the hero playbook.
Ooh, hell yeah. Is as my level up or like in addition to?
In addition to.
Ooh, thank you. Wow, Kai finally got some growth.
And I think with that, we move away from Kai sitting there in the canoe, hands touching Ivy's beneath the water. We see that there are now other figures there as well. That Rebecca is sitting there, no longer bleeding, but whole. Harlow, unburned except for their mark, sitting there. Everyone waiting to see what decisions Kai will make next. And I think that is where we are going to wrap up this session.
Me.
So that was a time that we just had together.
It's fun.
And so with that, I'll let you jump into your outro, Steph. Let people know the other cool things that you're doing, where they can find you when you're not here for Redacted, and all of that fun stuff.
Yee! Yeah. So yes, I've been these 4 haunted houses. This haunted house full of some 4 ghosts. When I'm not here, you can find me also at LFTA every other Saturday on a season of Secrets and Shadows, where we're having a great time with our single life. And when I'm not here, you can also find me over at Entropy Emporium, where I play in JD's, Season Seeking Shadows Monster Hearts game, Regency Monster Hearts. Over on Entropy Emporium, I play in JD's Horror Masks game. They call us villains, where I just play sweet little Doom. She's done nothing wrong either in her life, and neither have her friends. And she will defend them on that. It's fuck you.
I think that's fair, but like also I think
in this instance they've done nothing wrong ever. We've been tricked.
I don't know.
We've been bamboozled.
There's a pile of bodies around you.
That's not what they looked like when the thing was attacking us. So, technically, this facility is not secure. This facility is not secure. There was already a murder in here, and now maybe it's the doctor's fault.
And I am JD, and as Steph has just told you, when I am not here torturing her and all of the other players in this game, I am also torturing my players, and they call us villains, where I have been given permission to turn them into villains. Or will they be heroes? Who knows? It'll be a lot of fun. And I also run a Season of Secrets and Shadows, the aforementioned Regency Monster Hearts game. It is actually a 2-table game. We will hopefully be coming back with our Friday table, probably not on a Friday since we missed the last session, but that is all kicking off. You can also find me, I'm still doing things week by week. The only other thing I'm doing this week is going to be over on Folk and Myth. I will be playing in their Vampire the Masquerade Montreal game, which is returning for the second season this Friday, and then we're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff this month. That entire series is incredible. It is made up of multiple ongoing campaigns as well as duets and one-shots, exploring all of the different elements of the supernatural. So please do check that out. It is a good time. And I do a lot of other things, just none that are coming up for a little bit. The only other thing to mention, as I did at the start, is acknowledging that there will be a third Sunday Redacted game next week where I will be joined by Raph, who plays Sophie, Dr. Thurston, and others, getting to experience what that haunted house gets to go through since Sophie and the others died, but maybe not really. We last saw them in some sort of tube filled with liquid, indicating that they might be alive. So who knows? Find out on the 11th with that. Otherwise, I'm going to quickly drop the one social that we can be found in. That is the only one that, in fact, that doesn't even work any longer because we changed that prompt. I think it is still socials, yes. I thought social because it is only one at this time. So find us there. You'll find out about upcoming games, upcoming events, and things like that. But if you really want to get information as soon as possible, our Discord will have fun things like announcements for all of our ongoing games, as well as first opportunity and really only opportunity to join for things like special events for Extra Life, Hasmus, other things that we do where we invite the community to participate in series of one-shots and things like that. All right. I will then find us someone to raid. I'm not sure who is streaming, but I know a lot of Star Wars games are going on, so I'm going to check that out. So stay on for the raid. Thank you for joining us. We at LFTA will next be back on Tuesday for Nephilim Tenebris. And keep an eye on our socials for other announcements of games coming up this week. Thanks for watching, and say good night. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is not night. Say good afternoon, Steph.
Good afternoon, Steph.